Hi, I'm back. I'll be reading some more from Star Wars The Weapon of a Jedi, a Luke Skywalker adventure. Adventure. Chapter 10 The Secret of the Force. KIVAS heard the incoming ship before he saw it and knew immediately what it was. A Centaur-class Imperial landing craft. There was something wrong with one of the fuel pumps, a clog. By the sound of it, it wasn't bad yet. The pilot probably hadn't noticed anything except a slight pull to one side on takeoff, but it would ground the ship within a week or two if not serviced. Somehow, I don't think they are here to get it fixed. KAVAS thought. KIVAS knew he had a few minutes. Imperial ships coming to TIKARO from the capital. Always followed the valley up from the south, then called in to touch down on the landing field. He picked up his toolbox, pulled down the shutters on the hangar behind him, and locked the door. Then he strolled across the landing field and popped the access hatch on the starboard engine of a Mark 5 STRUTHIMER star yacht that had landed yesterday. The Senator's engines were louder now. KAVAS scattered a few tools beneath the star yacht, picked up his smallest hydro spanner and reached up into the access hatch as the landing craft roared in over the trees and fired its retro rockets, touching down with a bump and a rattle of landing gear. The Imperial craft's fuel pump was in worse shape than he thought. KIVAS glanced over at the landing craft, then put his gloved hands back into the engine he was pretending to service. The sound of the Senator's engines died away, and a minute later he heard the tramp of boot heels approaching. He looked over with what he hoped would seem like mild curiosity, and saw an olive green-clad officer approaching with a squad of stormtroopers behind him. KIVAS stripped off his dirty work gloves and stepped away from the star yacht. "What can I do for you, Lieutenant?" he asked, after eyeing the rank badge on the officer's uniform. Some Imperials reacted badly if you addressed them by the wrong rank. "We are looking for a starfighter that was spotted in this area 3 days ago," the lieutenant said, hands behind his back. "It belongs to a suspected fugitive from Imperial Justice." "Oh," KIVAS asked, lots of places a starfighter might have set down a roundtail, but we are pretty remote. Odds are the pilot would have followed the river to ASSARDO or TONBIRI, and if he did, another squad will find him," the lieutenant said. "This area is our responsibility. Do you have anything to report?" KIVAS saw the lieutenant's eyes lingering on the star yachts. As the governor knows, the only traffic we get is from hunters going into the jungle, he said carefully, hoping the officer was familiar with the governor's orders to let the hunts go on without interference. But our customers don't typically show up in starfighters. Then you won't mind if we take a look in the hangar. Of course not, KAVAS said, fighting down a sense of dread. But first, you should know your starboard fuel pump is clogged. It could cut out any minute. I'd be happy to fix it as a favor to the Emperor. How considerate. You can do so after we look in the hangar. The lieutenant turned and indicated two of his troops. You two stay here. KIVAS led the officer and the other stormtroopers across the landing field to the hangar. He knew there was nothing to be done. Trying to delay them further would only make things worse in the end. At least FARNAY was safe. KIVAS had been angry to discover their pack beast gone, and frightened when he realized his daughter had followed SARCO into the jungle. Worry had awoken him before dawn that morning, and he headed to the landing field because he known he wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. But now he found himself relieved that his daughter had made the choice she did. It was a foolish decision, but FARNAY knew the jungle, and at least her last act had taken her far from TIKARO. He unlocked the hangar, raised the shutters with a ladder, and turned on the overhead light. The officer looked at the Y-wing and raised an eyebrow. And you said you had nothing to report, he said. I'm just trying to make a living. KIVAS stammered. I wanted the starfighter as salvage. I see. And where did it come from? KIVAS paused, and the officer put his hands on his hips. The truth, please, he said. It would be a shame to take you in for interrogation. The owner isn't here. KIVAS said. He went into the woods and hasn't returned. And probably won't, KIVAS thought, looking guiltily at the Y-wing. Into the jungle, did he go alone? No. Two droids were with him, and he had a guide. And where is this guide? I don't know. The officer raised an eyebrow. I really don't. I spend most of my time here, not in town. Last I knew, the guide hadn't come back either. The two troopers who'd been left to guard the landing field strode into the hangar, holding someone between them by the upper arms. KIVAS tried to keep his face expressionless. I'm sorry, Dad, FARNAY said. The Imperial lieutenant looked from the frightened girl to KIVAS. Your daughter? KIVAS nodded grimly. Was she the pilot's guide? FARNAY looked at him in surprise. still struggling in the trooper's grip. No, KIVAS said, it wasn't her. The officers studied FARNAY for a long moment. But you know where the pilot went, don't you? He asked her. FARNAY, Parker's eyes jumped beseechingly too. Her father, but the lieutenant's gaze had turned his way too. You better tell them, KIVAS told his daughter. Dad, no. Your father's a wise man, the officer said. I'd listen to him. Not unless these two, FERIJIAN apes, let go of me, FARNAY said, kicking at one of the stormtroopers. The officer nodded at his men, who relaxed their grip. FARNAY stood for a moment with her eyes downcast, rubbing each arm in turn. They went to EEDIT, she muttered. The old temple? The officer raised, eyebrows raised. Are you sure? There's been no intrusion alarm. I'm sure. Very well, the officer said. We can depart after I verify your story in town, and after you fix the fuel pump you are so concerned about. But we could use a guide ourselves. This young lady will do nicely. She's answered your questions, KIVAS objected. Leave her alone. If she does her duty, no harm will come to her. I find using someone local encourages good behavior. The lieutenant's eyes lingered on the Y-wing. Then he turned to KIVAS with a smile. And as loyal Imperial citizens, I'm sure you welcome the chance to help the Emperor maintain peace and order, he said. The sun was burning off the dew. The birds were singing, and the PIKHRONs were nibbling at fruit in the branches of the trees. Time to get to work, Luke thought. He had dreamt all night of a lightsaber combat, of repositioning his feet, bending his knees, and angling his blade according to each of the four defensive postures, then switching to downward slashes and side cuts when attacking. His shoulders and arms hurt, but it was a good ache, the kind that followed hard work. I detest those dreadful remotes, 3PO said as he followed R2 out of the way. I swear they enjoy inflicting pain. The previous morning, Luke might have agreed with 3PO. Now, he just approached the pillar and ignited his saber. The remotes rose from their compartments as soon as he assumed the ready position, spiraling around each other, and then spreading out to flank him. The one on the right darted in, and Luke snapped his saber to stop its laser bolt, then whipped the blade back to the left, deflecting another. Then he stepped forward, forcing the remote in the center to give way before it could fire. Master Luke, you are doing it, 3PO called. Luke went, and one of the remotes dove and shot him in the thigh. R2 beeped his concern. his concern. How is it my fault, 3PO asked R2. Everyone needs a little encouragement. Luke's leg felt like it was asleep. He rubbed the circulation back into it, grimacing, and turned to face the remotes again, willing the force to give him the speed and stamina he needed to fight 3 enemies at once. Left and right, up and down, forward and back. Luke's saber was a rolling disk of energy, scattering laser bolts like rain. He could hear his heart hammering in his chest, his breath loud in his ears. One of the remotes used another for cover, slipping a beam of energy through Luke's defenses and catching him in the shoulder. He bent over, breathing hard. That was a scout and shot, he thought. Wedge would be proud. How long since the last time I was hit? He asked 3PO. 32 minutes and 24 seconds. Luke nodded. He waited a moment, breathing hard, then got back in the ready position. The remote swarmed him, and he lifted the lightsaber, scattering their bolts and dancing across the courtyard. He skirted the pits, and splashed through the pool left by the spring, bubbling up through the broken fountain, while the birds zipped from tree to tree, and the PIKHRONS watched quietly. A laser beam caught him in the calf, and he shouted in surprise, the lightsaber spinning out of his hands and shooting off in the air. He plucked it out of the grass with a grimace. How long that time? 14 minutes and 2 seconds, 3PO said. Luke's hair was dark with sweat. He ignited the lightsaber, noticing to his dismay that his hands were shaking. 6 minutes and 33 seconds later, two remotes got him at once, catching him in the back of the thigh. Luke reminded himself to push the anger and anxiety out of his mind, taking several calming breaths. His palms were sweaty where they gripped his father's lightsaber. He felt the negative emotions draining away and nodded, but he still felt tired, arms heavy, feet sluggish, his eyes and ears a beat behind the movements of the remotes as they waited for him to resume the exercise. He lasted less than 2 minutes before one of the remotes got him in the side of the head, making his ears ring. Then he was hit after 42 seconds, and then after 8. Luke hauled his lightsaber aside, gasping for breath. R2 whispered urgently. I quite agree with R2, 3PO said. Master Luke, you must rest. You are only human after all. Luke flopped down on the grassy flagstones, his chest rising and falling as the remotes retreated to wait inside the pillar. I haven't done enough, he said waggily. Haven't completed the exercise. Surely a rest isn't against the rules. No, probably not, Luke gasped. He sat in the grass until he was no longer short of breath and the sweat had stopped running down his face. He got to his feet and walked slowly to where his lightsaber lay, bending to pick it up. His legs ached and the ancient weapon felt heavy in his hand. Master Luke, are you quite sure you all recovered? 3PO asked. I hate to see you damaged. I'm fine, Luke said, though he was pretty sure that wasn't true. Next, you would tell me you have to fight again without being able to see, 3PO said. If you don't mind me saying so, that seemed terribly reckless. Luke smiled, remembering standing in the hold of the Falcon and trying to track the remote by the hiss of its chest with a blast shield of Han's old bucket of a flight helmet covering his eyes. He thought Ben was crazy. He could barely control a lightsaber, let alone use it without being able to see. Only his loyalty to the old Jedi had kept him from protesting more vigorously in front of Han and Chewbacca. But he done it. He stopped the remote without being able to use his eyes. It had been his first lesson in how the Force could enhance one's senses. Luke raised his lightsaber, and the remote advanced immediately. He pawed, one stroke, then another, listening for each hiss of a remote's changing directions. Eyes tracking each teeny repositioning. A laser beam caught him in the thigh. 26 seconds, Master Luke. I can't do this, Luke thought. Honestly, I'd be better off blind. And then he realized the point of fighting with a blast shield covering his eyes hadn't been to enhance his other senses. It had been to give him no choice but to trust in the Force. He done it then and again in the Death Star trench when he shut off his targeting computer and let the Force tell him when to fire the proton torpedoes that had destroyed the battle station. Let go, Ben's voice had said. That had been the key. The simple instruction that had saved the Alliance and his own life. He hadn't understood his own training there at EEDIT. He thought he'd been commanding the Force, using it to amplify his senses and speed up his reflexes. But that hadn't been it at all. When he succeeded, it was because he was letting the Force guide him. And when he failed, it was because he was trying to guide it. He thought that he was learning to make the Force obey his commands. But really, it was the other way around. Let go, Luke thought, breathing out. He couldn't track 3 remotes at once. It was hard enough keeping up with one. And all the practice in the galaxy wouldn't help him. That wasn't the point of the exercise anymore. Then whether or not he could see. Are you all right, Master Luke? 3PO asked. I'm fine, Luke said. 3PO, you are a genius. I like to think I'm programmed for insight, 3PO said, to which R2 offered a disgusted blat. Luke raised his blade to ready position, ignoring the ache in his shoulders and the sweat stinging his eyes. The remote streaked in. Luke couldn't say that he saw them, but the blade of his father's lightsaber was there to block their energy bolts. He couldn't say that he heard them, but he turned whenever one tried to get behind him, blocking its attack vector with his blade. He was no longer aware of 3PO's encouragement or R2's beeps. The chirping birds no longer registered in his ears, nor the chuffs and snorts of the Pikrons. He didn't notice the sweat running down his neck or feel the growing heat of the day. There was only the Force, its current stretching into the past and future, and he was part of it, trusting it to take him where he needed to be. His muscles and nerves moved, his arms and legs, shifting effortlessly among the four defensive postures that formed the foundation of lightsaber combat. But who was commanding those muscles and nerves? The remotes broke off their attack and floated quietly in front of the pillar. Luke looked around the courtyard, faintly startled. The sun had passed directly overhead and was now descending from its zenith in the sky. How long since I was last hit? He asked. 3 standard hours, 11 minutes, and 43 seconds, 3PO said. Perhaps you ought to rest, Master Luke. You must be preciously low on charge. I feel great, Luke said with a smile, wanting nothing more than to sink back into the Force and lose himself in it. The Pikrons began to snuffle and snort, tossing their heads. The matriarch brought her front feet off the ground and slammed them down, calling urgently to the rest of the group. Now, what's gotten into those particular creatures? 3PO wondered. I think they sense something, Luke said. They are acting like Banthas did back home when a KRA-YT dragon was on the hunt. Then he could feel it too. New ripples in the Force advancing like waves to crash into the gentle ebb and flow of life in the glade. He raised his lightsaber, and the remotes rose up to face him. No, Luke said, we are not training now. Something else is happening. He lowered his weapon, and the remotes backed away, which was when the laser blast knocked him off his feet. Okay, that's all for now. Bye-bye.